It's good to see you on this beautiful Sunday night. Before we start, I do want to remind you of the anniversary party for Ed and Jane. And I forgot to put this back there, but I'll do it. I'll make sure I do it. The details are on here. It is Saturday, September 28th from 2 to 4 in our Family Life Center. It's going to be a big party, so if you want to be a part of that, they do want you to be there. So I'll put that back there tonight, or it'll be right there. But come look at the details, take a picture of it. I only have one invitation for the whole church, so do that. Tonight, we're going to be talking a little bit about Bags of Hope, about the heart behind Bags of Hope and why we chose this and how all this transpired. But just to clarify a few details for the church and those that are watching online, the church is going to buy the bags. We want all the bags to be the same, so don't buy a bag. Buy the items on the list. The church will provide the bag. I already have 96 bags back in the back, so we'll fill the bags. Any money that's given, we'll purchase bags, and once we have purchased the bags completely, then that money will start buying the items in the bags, and so we'll be able to start working that direction to get that. And if God continues to go overboard and we just continue to have givings and givings and givings, we've also talked to DHS about other ways that we can impact the foster care system. And so there are so many different things that we can do. If we succeed in hitting our goal immediately, we'll be able to help families in foster care system and a lot of other things. So really excited about where God's going to take this initiative. But yeah, the bags, church is buying, don't buy a bag. You can donate money to a bag if you want to help buy a bag. Like I said, they're $6. So any of your financial givings, right off the bat, will be buying the bags and replenishing the church's money for buying the first 96. So we gotta make sure we do that first off, and then we'll start buying items for the bags themselves. So I've asked Tara to come share her heart about Bags of Hope, about foster care, about adoption, and how it's changed her heart, and how God has used this to mold her into the mother that He wanted her to be. And I know many of you have known someone that has dealt with foster care or adoption, or even been in foster care, or grew up in an orphan's home. But God uses this to impact our lives greatly, and He uses children to impact our lives. He uses children to kind of show us the simplicity of life sometimes, or humble us sometimes. God uses these little children. So Tara's going to come share her heart about how this has impacted her life, and then I'll share a little bit about my heart as well.
All right. Well, I have kind of a unique perspective on this because I've been on two sides of it. And so I'm just going to kind of tell you our story. A lot of you know our story, at least bits and pieces of it, and you've witnessed our story in person. But I'm just going to kind of talk about how God has changed my heart about kids in foster care, and about foster families, and about bio families. So Joel and I both have always kind of had a heart for foster care, but for different reasons. Many of you know that Donnie and Dee both grew up in an orphanage, and you know that Donnie was in and out of foster care as a child. So Joel has always had a heart for orphans or kids in foster care because of his dad's experiences. You know, Donnie has been very open when he's preached and stuff here. He's talked a lot about his past, and he always talked about his past with his boys. And so Joel has that perspective of foster care, and he always has had a little tender spot in his heart for foster care for that reason. And I've always had a spot in my heart for foster care because my parents were foster parents. And I don't know if many of you know that or remember that. When my family went here, we did do my parents did foster care for a while. And so I was actually a foster sibling. And, you know, I shared my parents with kids I'd never met before. And so they didn't do it a really long time, but we did have several children. I lost count. I think it was maybe 8 or 10 kids that came in and out of our house. So I got to experience foster care as a child from from sharing my own family. And so when we got married, we had talked about it before. We talked about foster care. We talked about adoption, but it was always in passing. It was always like, oh, that'd be really nice, you know. But we never really took it seriously. And then, you know, we had 4 biological kids. And God really started dealing with both of us about foster care and adoption, but we really dismissed it because we had lots of excuses. You know, Moses and a lot of other characters in the Bible, how they loved to give excuses to God. Well, we did that. And, you know, our excuses, well, we already have 4 kids. We got a house full already. We have plenty of kids, right? We also said, you know, it would be too hard homeschooling. It'd be a lot of work to do homeschooling and foster care. Like, we had all these excuses of why we were not the people who should do this, right? And then God literally dropped the situation in our laps that we couldn't say no to. Many of you know that there was a family that came here, not the parents, but the children. And they had been coming here since they were babies. And it was a sibling set of 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls. And all of the teachers here poured everything they had into those kids, everything. I can think of so many people, Karen and Dana and Carla and Amanda Schooley and Carrie Jameson. And I know I'm leaving people out, but there were so many that have worked in the children's department that could tell something wasn't quite right with these kids, but we couldn't ever put a finger on it, you know, like what's really going on here. And so anyways, you know, they would come, we would feed them. Sometimes we would give them clothes. Sometimes the teachers, Darlene, I'm pretty sure, would give them a bath in the sink back there in the 2- and 3-year-old classroom, you know. And we knew something wasn't quite right, but we couldn't really put a finger on it either. And, you know, one of the girls grew up and was in our teen class, and Joel and I taught the teens, and she kept giving me more and more pieces of her story, but it wasn't, again, enough that we could do anything about it, you know. And then one night she came to Wednesday night service. We were down in the basement, and she said, Tara, I want to talk to you. And so I took her out after worship and sat with her on the stairs right back there. And she said, I don't want to go home tonight. And she told me why. And I said, you understand that I can't not do anything, like I have to do something about what you've just told me. And she said, yeah, I know, I'm ready. I'm ready. I know you guys have been questioning us for years, and I'm ready. And that night after church was over, I called a friend that I went to Faith with. She was in my youth group at Faith, and I knew she worked for DHS. And so I called her and I said, what do I do? And she said, well, you need to call the DHS hotline and you need to call the police. And I said, okay. So that's what I did. And they came and they took the kids, and it broke my heart in half. And I asked the DHS worker that night that was here, I said, I want you to take my phone number, and I want to know what happens to these kids because they've been coming here for years. And if we have to, we'll come pick them up if they still want to go to church here. We want them to still come to church here. We love these kids. And she said, okay, I'll take your number. And she called me a week later, and I thought she was calling to give me an update on how the kids were doing, where they were at. And so I was really excited to hear from her. And she said, well, Tara, the reason I'm calling you is we have a home for the boys but not the girls. And I said, what? They're staying with family, right? And she said, well, they have been staying with family, but we can't approve that family's home long-term, and they need a long-term home. And my heart sunk. And I said, okay, then what do you want me to do? And she said, can they come live with you? And I just went, wait, what? What? I wasn't prepared for that. And I said, but that doesn't make any sense. We're not foster parents. And she said, no, but we can get you training and we can get you licensed to be foster care and we can place them with you until you're licensed as a kinship. And I said, but I'm not related to them. And she said, that doesn't matter. They can either live with family or they can live with somebody they already know, and then we'll get you into the licensing process. And I said, okay, how long do I have to decide? And mind you, this was noon. I'm pretty sure it was like a Tuesday, and it was noon. And she said, I'll give you 3 hours. And I went, okay. So Joel was at work. I called him, and he didn't bat an eye. He said, absolutely, but we need to talk to our kids. And so we sat, I took each of my kids in a different room because I didn't want one saying yes just because another would say yes. And they didn't hesitate. I told them who it was and what they needed, and they said, yeah, Mommy, we want them to come live here with us. And so that day we made a decision to say yes. And I made a few phone calls, and we rearranged our house. And by 10 p.m. that night, we had 2 more kids in our house and 2 more beds in our house. And it was a whirlwind. And like Devon said this morning, you know, when he got the call with their first, with Randy and Sparkle, they had people rushing through their doors to help. And we did too. And I'm so grateful for that. We had, I know that somebody gave us a bed. Somebody said, I've got clothes. Somebody said, that, you know, people were even just giving us money, like walking through the door, dropping dinner off on the table and putting money in our hands. And I'm so thankful for that. But I also understand what he was saying this morning about kids coming with just the clothes on their back. That's how those girls came to our house that night. They came with the clothes on their back. They had been to school that day. They were picked up from school and brought to our house. And they literally had the clothes on their back and the backpack on their back, and that was all they had. And thankfully, the little one, she wore the same size as Abby, so Abby shared all her clothes with her, and that was great. But the older one, she wasn't the size of either one of my older girls, and so it was a mad dash for us. Like, we had to get to the store. We had to find school uniforms. We had to find, you know, socks and underwear and pajamas, and we had to find everything. Like, she literally came with one outfit. And so I really understand what these kids, like, what a bag would mean to them, you know, to go into a house and have something to call their own besides the clothes on their back. So that's kind of our personal journey. And as you know, before, you know, those girls, we got to send them home. And that is the goal of foster care. The goal of foster care is to keep families together, if at all possible. And we got to do that. We got to walk alongside a family and break bad habits and break strongholds and addictions. And we got to support their parents to get them back. And that family is whole again. And I still talk to those girls, and they're thriving. You know, I don't want to say her name since this is a live stream, but the littlest one, and y'all, most of y'all know who I'm talking about. She's playing softball, and she's a cheerleader, and she's got good grades, and she's just thriving. And the older one is now an adult, and she's in school. She's going to school to try to become a teacher, and she works at a daycare, and she's doing well. And it's just incredible that I got to be this big of a piece of their story. You know, they lived with us for 2 years, which is a drop in the bucket compared to their life. But we got to be part of that. And so that was beautiful. And right before they went home, I got a phone call about a baby boy who was placed with a friend of mine. And, so, some of you guys in the room are related to that friend of mine. And she had this baby boy, and she couldn't keep him. And I said, well, you can ask the worker. And again, it was a situation where Joel and I weren't seeking another baby. We had kids that were teenagers. And we weren't looking for another baby in the house, right? But God dropped another situation on our laps. I had babysit this baby boy before. And I already loved him just because he was with my friend and because I had babysat him. And she said, I can't keep him. And I said, well, if you'll ask the worker, if she says yes, I'll take him. And within that night, we had a baby. And so at one point for, I think it was 2 months, we had 7 kids in the house, and it was a circus. It was a wild ride, and it was a lot of fun. I don't think I slept for days, and neither did Joel. But, we were hoping to support his mama, and I was told with him that case would probably only last 4 to 6 months, and he would go home. And as many of you know, he's our son now, forever. And so just the way God proved to us that our excuses were really nothing. I already have enough kids. What does that even mean? The fact that I'm a busy homeschooling mom. I don't have time for that. Well, God proved to me that you make time for what you care about, right? So that's a little bit of our story, our personal story. And then I want to really quickly share with you another side of it. Once we adopted Eli and he became our forever son, we knew that he needed a break from people constantly being in and out of our house. Because when you do foster care, you've got all these people visiting all the time, right? Workers are coming in, they're checking everything. They interview every member of your family every few months to make sure that your home is safe and all of these things. And so we knew that he needed a break emotionally from a lot of that. And so we made the really difficult decision to close our home. And the reason it was a difficult decision is because once you have seen things in the foster care system, and once you have heard things and experienced things, it's really hard to just tune that out and walk away from it. It like kind of eats away at your heart, And we didn't want to stop being involved in the foster community, but we knew that it was the best decision for our son to close our home. And so we did that, and then God dropped another opportunity in my lap, and that was through now I am employed with FCAO, which is the Foster Care and Adoptive Association of Oklahoma, and I get to mentor other foster families, and so I get to be there as a support system for other foster families, and I get to help other foster families love on these kids, and I also get to help their biological families. I get to be part of cases still and still help families heal, and I still get to see the needs being met in the community. I'm in a lot of group texts with a bunch of people that I work with for various different pieces of the system, and it's like every day I get a message about a kid sleeping in the office. Just imagine that. You're just taken from everything you've ever known, and they say you can't go home to your family, you can't go back to your friends, and you're gonna spend the night on a couch in my office. I get messages about kids sleeping in offices. I get messages about foster families trying to give a bed to a kid, but they're out of room. They've already got 6 kids, and that's all the state will allow them to have, unless you're like me and they say yes to a 7th because they're crazy, right? But I get these messages all the time, And I get messages about bio families, about parents who have worked their tails off to get their kids back. And there's like, they only need a bed in order for their kid to come home, or they only need a gate for the stairs to make it safe for the kid to come home, but they can't afford it because they're busting their tail at their job that pays minimum wage, and still trying to go to rehab class, but they've done the work and they just need this one little piece of something to get their kid home. And it just breaks your heart to see these stories. The needs are there, you guys. The needs are there. And so when Devon, brought this to me and said that he really wanted to focus on foster care this year, I said, "Oh, I'm all over this. I'm all in. I can give you lots and lots of ideas." And so I got him connected to some people in DHS, and we had some meetings with him. And like he said this morning, we said, what do the kids need? Because we want to help families, but we really want to help kids. They're the completely innocent ones in all of this. They've done nothing to deserve any of this, And so we said, what do these kids need? And they said sometimes they just need something to call theirs. They need a bag. They need a teddy bear. They need a blanket that belongs to them and not somebody else, And so that's kind of the heart behind this program. And I do want to share one more thing, that how God has changed my heart. I think the biggest change of heart for me doing foster care was for the biological families. The people who lose their kids. It's really easy to stereotype them, to judge them for the choices that were made to get their kids in care. But a lot of times these parents are victims themselves. They're part of a generational cycle that needs to be broken, and they don't know how to break it without help. And that's where the church can be the hands and feet of Jesus, to step in and say, there's another way. This might have been the way you were raised, but it doesn't have to be the way you raise your kids. What if we were truly the light of Jesus? What if we were truly the hands and feet of Jesus? And we can go out there and love these parents who are struggling and help them get their kids back, And so God really changed my heart for the girls that we had. Their parents, when we first got them, I was mad. I didn't want to talk to their parents. I was mad at them. I said, how can you do this to your kids, But my heart really changed towards them, and I realized that a lot of their story, nobody ever helped them when they were younger, and they didn't know how to get out of that themselves. And I know with Eli's birth mom, it'd be really easy to be mad at her, judge her, and a lot of people do. But when I got to know her and know what happened to her as a child and how nobody ever saved her as a child, it broke my heart for her. And I still talk to her on a weekly basis. And she loves him so much. She just didn't have the power to break the cycle, even though everybody, and she had a lot of people trying to help her, but she never was able to overcome it. And so I'm thankful that God not only kind of slapped me in the face with my excuses about why I couldn't, shouldn't, wouldn't do foster care, but he also softened my heart to people who are hurting and just need somebody to love on them and help them. So that's kind of my story. The need out there is so great. It's so great. Kids need stuff. Biological families need stuff. Foster families need stuff. But so this is just a very tiny piece of how we can help, but it's also huge. It will mean the world to a kid who literally has nothing. So thank you for letting me share.
she said something I hadn't really thought of, but God works behind the scenes without asking our permission for things. He does what He wants to do, and that's the way the world turns. And it's funny the way that she described the biological family struggle. It's a cycle. It's a cycle of sin. It's a cycle of struggles and troubles that they have been involved with. And here we are trying to break that with just a little bit of hope. Hope breaks that cycle of struggles. Hope breaks that cycle of sin. And so here we are as a church trying to give a little bit of hope. Our next sermon series is about the judges in Israel. And the reason we're doing that is we want to talk about breaking the cycle of sin. Israel continued to struggle, and they were continuing in a cycle of sin, rebellion. They would turn back to God. They'd be restored, and then they would sin. They would rebel, and they would turn back to God. They would be restored. It's a cycle that they continue to do throughout their life. And in the foster care system, many times these families are just in a cycle of struggles, in a cycle of sin that they just don't know how to get out of. And hope is the way that you get out of those struggles. Hope is something that steers you away from that old cycle that you continue to be stuck in. Hope is what does that. And that is our initiative. That's our goal, is to just shine a little bit of hope in someone's life. The shoes it was just a glimmer of hope. And that's all this is. It's just a glimmer of hope, telling them that someone cares for them, wants to pray for them, someone loves them. They're not helpless. They're not hopeless. They're not alone. They have someone caring for them and loving them. And so that's what these bags are for. Thank you, Tara, for sharing your heart. And I want to share my heart from a different perspective. Amber and I were into the foster care system for other reasons. We couldn't have our own children, so we felt like God was leading us to jump in and be foster parents. I struggled with that for a long time. I wasn't on board to do that, and it was, I don't know if it was pride or what the reasoning was. Maybe I was just scared. It was probably fear. I a lot of times in my life when I don't want to do something, it's based off of fear. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't want to deal with this, or I don't want to have to deal with that. It was just a fear-based no from me. And I went to a men's conference over in Owasso area, and I remember Jim McComas was the guest speaker, and he preached a sermon called "Who's in Your Basket?" And it was about Paul whenever he had his conversion, and he was telling people about his conversion. And there was a group of Jewish people who wanted to murder Paul. They didn't believe his conversion was real. They wanted to kill him. And there was a group of believers that believed what Paul had been transformed. They believed in his conversion. And so they put him in a basket, and they lowered him down on the wall so he could escape the city before he was murdered. And Jim McComas' question was, who's in your basket? Who is in your basket of influence in your life? Who is that person or those kids that are in your basket of influence that you can help, you can restore, you can get out of a hopeless situation? And when he preached that sermon, I took it, as many in the room probably took it a completely different way, but I took it as God telling me that there are kids that can be inside of my basket that I have an influence over, that I can help out of these terrible situations, that I can give a little bit of hope, that I can help them through the struggles of life. And that changed my heart that night. And I'll never forget going down to the altar. Joel was with me, and he prayed with me that night, and it changed my life forever. And I thank God for using a man of God like Jim McComas to preach a sermon like that. And I'll be honest, I prepare for my sermons, and I know what Jim McComas was, where he was headed for his sermon, and he wasn't talking about foster care. He wasn't talking about children. He was talking about influencing the lost world for Christ, telling people about Jesus. There's people all around us that we can influence for Christ. But God was working on the inside in my heart to talk about foster care. And I broke down that night, and I made a decision that let's do it. Let's do it. And I don't know details as well as Amber might, or Tara just explained her details, but Mine a little muddy because it was crazy. But we brought home Sparkle and Randy. We first were told that there's a baby in the NICU that Amber actually had some coworkers take care of, and I believe she took care of her the first night when she was born. And her name was, they just named her Baby. There was no name for this child. It was Baby Girl Johnson. And they asked us if we wanted to take her, and so me and my wife discussed it a little bit, and they said, if you do, there is a 2-year-old that's involved as well, and she needs a home. And I immediately kind of was a little hesitant. Oh, boy. We need to talk about this a little longer. It wasn't, I said yes, and then there's a 2-year-old. Now I'm saying, hold on. A little nervous about that situation. And they reassured me, well, okay, here's the situation now. When you get to the hospital, you'll be able to take the baby home. We can't find the 2-year-old right now. That will come later. I was okay with that. I got some time to process. So we head to the hospital. We spend some time at the hospital with this child. But before we walked through the doors, they said, oh, the 2-year-old's over here in the waiting room. You're going to be taking her home too. Wow. Would you like to meet her? Oh, man. That was wild. That was wild. Amber probably could share her emotions a little more sitting down in that waiting room talking to that 2-year-old. But I made a pretty good connection with her. Babies are not my thing. My wife loves babies. But a kid that can communicate, talk, jump, play, run, give you high fives, I love that. And I made a connection with that little girl. And it was all history from there. She was able to go home with her father, and we've been involved in her life, and she still comes to church when she can. And that was someone who was in my influence. I don't know if that girl would ever have gone to church without her coming into our home. I don't know that she would ever know who Jesus was. She got saved, and she got baptized here, and she has that little light, that little hope inside of her heart. We didn't have her for very long, but we had her long enough to put some hope in her heart. Then we had her and Randy, and then we had another young boy named Ezekiel, and that boy was the hardest child I've ever seen. I don't know. Maybe you guys, your kid's just that good in public, but he was very difficult. He screamed all the time. He didn't communicate well. He cried and screamed and cried and screamed, and it was tough for me and Amber. Sleepless nights. It was hard, but he got to go home with his father. His father needed a little bit of time to take care of himself, to work on himself, to get into a situation where he could take a boy home. And me and Amber stepped in, and we were able to do that for him. And he took his son home, and we've seen, it's been a year or two since we've seen him, but he's doing good. He's growing, and he's doing what every little boy does, runs and plays, and it's nice to see him healthy. And we had him for a short period of time as well, but just that little bit of hope, just a little bit of hope that we were able to place in his life, because we said yes, because we didn't shy away from what we felt God was calling us to do. And our life was crazy because while we had him, we also got another baby, which was Kevin, and we had 3 in diapers. For I don't know how long was it we had 3 in diapers. It was a while. Diapers, formula, 3 babies. It was like having triplets, really. That was a lot of work, but it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding. Then we got the call after Ezekiel went home, and we got the call for our baby girl, Brinley, and she's just a ball of fire. But I wouldn't trade anything. Ezekiel, Sparkle's situation, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I wouldn't say no again. I would say yes every time. Because that opportunity that I got to share hope with her, the opportunity that I got to tell her about Jesus, you don't get to do that with just any kid that you teach in a class. You don't get that one-on-one time, that time reading the Bible at night with them and telling them why you're doing this. You don't get that opportunity, but you do if you're a foster parent. And that little bit of time that I had some influence on these kids, they were in my basket of influence, and I was able to tell them about Jesus, tell them about the greatest love ever to be told. I got to do that as a father. And that'll never be taken away from me. That'll never be taken away from Sparkle or Ezekiel. They got that. They understood what love really was. And that's what foster care is. It's taking these children, it's giving them a little glimmer of hope, a little love, and showing them and telling them that there are people out there that love them. There's a God that loves you. And then you get to hold on to them for just a little bit of time while the parents work on themselves. They get out of the situations they're in. They break that cycle of sin and that cycle of struggles and troubles, and you get to be the one to help that. And through this initiative, it's kind of been a burden on my heart this year to do something in the foster care system. We also have closed our home, and because of our baby, we wanted her to grow up a little bit before we jump back in fostering, and so we want to also do it for our child and our children. But this is a way that we can continue to do something. We can continue to impact lives. And that's the goal of this, is just to impact people's lives, to do something with a situation that many people aren't doing anything. Many people just don't want to be foster parents or don't want to get involved, or like Tara said, they don't even want to see it. But it's something that I can't keep putting on the back burner. There's something in my heart that tells me that we need to do this. And God has been working on my heart. He's been working on Tara and Joel and Amber's heart to do something with this initiative. Because I believe that these children are just as important as my children are. A child that gets taken from their home is just as important as I am. There's a lot of need out there, and we're going to do this, and we're going to make this happen. We're going to change these children's lives forever. And I pray that not only can we give them a bag, but I hope that you will pray for these children. You will care for children in the foster care system. You will pray for the families that take in children. When you know someone that's a family friend and you know that they've taken a child in, reach out to them. Take them some clothes, take them some food, give them some money, help them out, because they're really being the hands and feet of Jesus to this child. So that's our goal, is to just do something. And through this initiative, what I want you to understand is that each bag, there's going to be 360. So each bag is, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of money, but I know that you can do it. And I know that it means more than just $50 to you. It means a kid having something, coming home to an unknown family, coming home to someone they don't know, an unfamiliar house, an unfamiliar bed, and for that mother or that father of that foster family to say, honey, this is your bag. Whatever in it's yours. You get to take it wherever you go. This is yours. That sounds like hope to me, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it. That's a little of my heart, and I do want to, Joel's got a picture up there that we're going to throw on the screen of the website. So if you're out and about, you're shopping or you're talking to someone about this initiative and they want to know about it, on our website, it's under our ministries tab. It says Bags of Hope, and there's towards the bottom of the page, there's the same cards that are up here are just posted on the website. So if someone wants to do something for a child, if they want to buy the items for a child, just tell them to go to our website. There'll be links on our Facebook. There'll be links on cards we're going to print. It'll be everywhere. And so you can just tell them, if you want to help, you just go to that website, and it'll have a card, and tell them they just need to choose one of those cards and buy those items and bring it to the church, or they can give it back to you and tell them what age they had or what gender they had on their card. And that's the hope, is that we don't just get the people in this building involved. We get our friends and our family involved. That's what I would love to see, is that people's heart change towards foster care system. People's hearts change toward bio families and the system itself. You know, a lot of people say, well, the system's broken. It is, but it's full of broken kids. It's full of broken families. You can't have a perfect system that's full of these things that are just broken. They're going through a cycle of sin and a cycle of struggles. You can't just fix it day one. It's a struggle. It's a cycle of sin, and only hope, only Jesus can break that cycle. So through this initiative, please share it. Please let your friends know what we're doing. If you have any questions about it, you can reach out to me, Tara and Joel, Amber, We'll answer the questions as much as we can. We're so excited about this. There's going to be videos on Facebook, posts. Anytime you see something with Bags of Hope, please share it. Please let your friends and family know about this. We want to raise this goal quickly so God can do something else amazing like he did last year with our other initiative. And church, I just want to thank you for what you did last year. It's still an amazing ministry that's going on right now. And I don't know if I've shared this on a Sunday night. I know I've shared it on a Wednesday night, but the Kicks for Kids campaign is still going on. We will start new student registration for shoes beginning in September. So if a new student comes to Eugene Field from now till the end of the year this year, we will be buying that student a pair of shoes from your generosity. We still have money from that initiative, and so we're going to be continuing that. And I've got a meeting with the principal and the community advocate over there, and we're going to hopefully be able to take those shoes actually to the students' home and give them pastor, principal, and give these students the bag of shoes, or the box of shoes at their home to meet their families, to tell them that there is a church that loves you. I, as the pastor of that church, want to tell you that there's a group of people who love you and care for you. And that initiative is because of your generosity, because you've been praying. I don't believe that any of this was done without prayer. And continue to pray for Bags of Hope, because I know that God's going to do something crazy with this generosity of this church. And I know he's going to do something that we weren't expecting, but it's only through prayer. So please pray for this initiative, share this initiative, and get involved with this initiative. If you don't have time to buy the items on one of these cards, donate $6 for a bag. We have to replenish the church's funds for buying these bags. Donate $6. Donate, $12. Buy 2 bags. Donate in $150 so you can buy the items for 3 bags. Donate whatever you can. Get involved and tell your people, because this is going to be something so great that we're going to be able to see. And we have a lot of connections, and I hope we get some stories on the other side of this, of how it impacted a kid's life. That would be very rewarding if we're able to do that. They got to be tight-lipped about most of the cases, but I'm sure we'll get some stories about how our Bags of Hope impacted a kid's life. Before we close tonight, I do want to pray over this initiative, so pray with me that God will do something great. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, as we just continue to share the heart behind our Bags of Hope, Lord, we first want to give you praise. Everything we do, Lord, has been thrown in our lap, Lord, and with this initiative, God, you have orchestrated it behind the scenes to put a burden on people's hearts, the workers at DHS, Tara and Joel, Lord, and the heart that you have burdened inside of me and Amber. I just ask, God, that you continue to put this burden on the hearts of your church. Lord, share this burden and spread this burden to other people in our community, to people in the greater Tulsa area. God, I just ask that you just let people know that we're doing something for the children in need. But Lord, I want people to understand, Lord, that we're not doing it from a perspective of financial givings. We're not doing it from a perspective of just belongings and personal items. Lord, we're doing it from a perspective that we really believe that the greatest thing that these kids need is Jesus, and it's hope in you. Lord, so help us do that and keep that at the very forefront of this initiative, to share hope, and the hope of Jesus with these kids. God, be with us as we leave from this place. Let us always shine our light. Let us always show people hope that we have in you. It's in your precious name we pray. Amen. Amen. Just a few details about this. It is going to stay local to kind of the greater Tulsa area right here. DHS serves Oklahoma City. It serves all of Oklahoma. So we have requested that this initiative stays local to our community so we can have the greatest impact right here inside of our community. We know several people, several kids that actually go to our Wednesday night program that are currently right now in foster care system. It's not something that is void of our community. Our community deals with this situation. So we are going to keep it right here in Tulsa and impact our community to the best of our ability. That's all I have for you. Any questions you might have, please see myself, Tara, or Amber and Joel. What you got? Yes, thank you. No, thank you. So you can give on Easy Tithe. If you go on Easy Tithe, you do online giving. There's a QR code back there on the wall that has our Easy Tithe giving. And just designate, it has Bags of Hope. It says Bags of Hope on there as one of our new giving selections. Do the drop-down menu, Bags of Hope, select it, and you can give that way as well. Was there anything else on that? Okay. That's all I got for you. You guys have a wonderful night. Oh, my goodness. So announcements, yeah. What are our announcements? Women's Bible study, 6 o'clock on, I shouldn't be doing announcements. 6:30 on Thursday night, and then the senior adults are not doing a meal this month. They're going to be canceling this month's meal, so look for an announcement for that the next month. Look for an announcement for that. What else was there? The pantry day is not the 28th. The pantry, clothing closet, health clinic is going to be the 21st this month. We moved that up for some schedule conflicts. Anything else? Oh, yeah. Thank you, Larry. Work day. Men, ladies, anybody that wants to help. We're having a work day this Saturday. Cameron, what time are we starting? Sunrise. So be here. Donuts. Cameron said he's providing donuts and coffee. He didn't say that, but Quick Trip has them, so you can stop by Quick Trip. Sunrise Saturday, we're going to be doing a lot of different projects. We're going to be redoing the clothing closet, because we had some very generous people donate some material, donate their time and their labor to build out new clothing racks. So we're going to be able to hang approximately about 3 times as many clothes in our clothing closet. So while we're bringing in new racks, we're actually going to carpet that room, paint the walls in that room, put the new racks in all at the same time, so that will be completely done. Looking forward to that. That's going to be really exciting. And then we're also going to be starting some repairs on this house over at 909. And while I'm giving some announcements, the Family Life Center was finally repaired. So the back of the building where it got hit by a car, it got repaired this week. They're doing some final touches on the front of it. They had to steal material on the front of the building, so the back of the building would look the same because they don't make that rock anymore. So they stuccoed the front of the building. There's a few small minor details they're going to be touching up this week, but just so thrilled that that project is finished up. So love God, love people. And I'm putting this back in the back.